Hi, Rob.
Hey, Paul.
Okay,
right.
you're unmuted.
I'm unmuted. I'm going to turn my volume up as high as it goes, and then I'm going to move my computer and we'll... Where's their headphone? Okay, turn that light back on. Right here. Okay, are those on?
He looks a lot more Minnesota than Paris.
Right here.
You can't change genetics.
Okay, are those on? Oh yeah, it's not changing the default of the speakers. Well, that's the way I've got it set, but I think it's loud. Okay, oh yeah, it's not changing the default of the okay. I can change this audio. You can change the audio? Yeah, the default. Okay.
This is our first internet video conference.
Hey, Paul.
Hi. Here, you want to get to here? Setting.
You can mute your phones.
And then
Sound
no, it's the settings on the computer because
we are. Go down, right click, mixer.
it's not. That's not going to do it.
Should go any background rules just to talk about if you're not speaking your phone?
If they can. Otherwise, I can turn them down.
Uh-huh. Okay. Oh,
I see someone else.
Good. What was it?
I don't know. Who else is that just joined the call? We can...
Oh, that's Martine.
Yeah.
Aha.
Hi, Martin.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you for joining us. You have no camera?
No, I think I can turn it on as well.
Okay. Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, there I am.
There he is.
Hello, everybody.
Where are you at home?
Yeah, I'm just.
Okay. Claire cannot join us, and we're hoping Joe will be here. Why don't we start? St. Louis Park, are you ready?
We're trying to set our sound so it hits the speakers.
Yeah. Okay. Tell us when you're ready.
I think we're about to give up.
Tell them to keep talking.
Here, keep talking.
It's a good thing it's not Sunday and everybody would want to go to the football game.
Is there any outlet matters?
This did this less than a week.
They're 6 hours. Yes.
I think that's
That's it.
Yeah.
Paul, how about you invite people to mute their ends of the conversation and then you can start talking.
Yeah, and we can mute you from this end, but I do want to start. So St. Louis Park, we're going to begin. I recommend you use what you have and turn your screen out so we can see who's there.
if you can mute on your end, that's easier than my trying to mute you because I have to use a little slider to turn your volume up and down, and it's not as fast.
So welcome to the call. We're excited to communicate with you. We're expecting Alexandria, Duluth, and Stillwater to join in, but we want to respect your time. Mindy and I have been getting ready for this all day, so this is all this is all we're doing tonight. We'll maybe take a break and play a game of cribbage tonight, but it's been 24/7 working to get the word out about Citizen Voice, and I hope that you're enjoying the work we're doing. On the call, we have Red Wing with, I'm not sure, 5 or 6 people. Northfield, Minnesota with 13 people. St. Louis Park with maybe 20 people. There we are. Hi, St. Louis Park. Good to see you. I see lots of friends and some new people. Great to see you. And then we've got Marcin Cronin. He is from one of our CCL volunteers from Ireland. So he's going to take a part in our presentation. And then we're hoping Joe Robertson will join us. And I can see now that Katya Gordon from Two Harbors. Hi, Katya.
Hi.
How many people do you have in the room?
Our family of 4.
Great. All right.
All right.
I can see a great big shadow of your face right now.
Yeah. We just washed our windows because it's 45 degrees out.
It was nice and bright.
So we'd like to do our call in 30 minutes. And I think the best thing is keep your computer muted unless you're speaking. And then if you could have one person designated as the person that's talking close to the computer, I'm hoping that you can all hear us very well. We'll do a little overview from here. And then we'll let Marcin talk a little bit about the CCL launch. And if Joe is with us, he can talk about the negotiations, because you might know more about the negotiations than we do, because we're so busy doing the outreach work. And then we'll leave a lot of time for questions, which hopefully we can answer. If not, we'll do our best. So, Mindy, go ahead and just give some impressions about the first week here at the halfway point of the COP21.
So first I'll give you a little layout of what it looks like. So there's the main negotiations are happening in the blue zone. So that's where you need that's where we're speaking on the first day.
Hello.
Hello, Jean.
Hi, Jean. We've done intros now. If you could mute your welcome, nice to see you. If you could mute your computer, we'll continue on.
Oh, well, but I can't. Oh, wait a minute. Here. I wonder.
So there's the blue zone, which we don't have credentials for. A few members of our team do, and that's where the official negotiating teams are as well. Then there's what's called the green zone, or the climate generations area, which is the official area for the for civil society, and there's lots of booths set up there, Climate Reality and the Sierra Club, and then a number of indigenous groups, and lots of different, that's where 350 would be, lots of groups like that. We haven't even had time to look around, so maybe Martin can give you a few examples if he's seen more than we have. Then there's another area that's in that same, it's a military airport in Le Bourget, which is just north of Paris. Before they built the Charles de Gaulle airport, it was the commercial airport as well, so it's a big area. And then there's an Air and Space Museum there, which is the low carbon solutions exhibition, which is a lot of businesses that are showing all the technologies that they're using and that they have to offer for low carbon solutions. And then there's the rest of Paris, which has lots of side events, artists, all sorts of things going on in all different places, including that's where in one location where we held the Citizens Climate Engagement Network launch. So a good overview?
Yeah, during the day there are a number of, in the green zone where we're spending most of our time, we're running into our friends from Minnesota. We saw Catherine Hayhoe and James Hansen.
Let's share a couple
last
pictures.
week. Mindy's got some photos that she can show you. The first one is Mindy and I, just after an interview. This is a styrofoam Cop 21 that is greeting you as you come in. Outside of the blue zone where the bus drops you off, there are 196 pillars with the flags of all the countries. So we did some interviews and some of our Cup of Coffee events by one of the pillars for the United States. This is really a small portion of our team after a team meeting on the second night that we were together. You see Joe on the right, me in front of him, Mindy's on the left. And then you might recognize some of the people. Naomi in the front row with the glasses is from Hibbing, and now she is living in Denmark. Marcin, who's not in the picture, and Gerard next to Joe with the beard is our CCL rep from Germany. He is an ocean expert. And Peter Joseph's in the front row next to Sarah Beth. Peter is a group leader in the San Francisco area and has been involved for a long time with the Carbon Stream Working Group. And right behind him is Claire, who was going to try to join us on the call. Claire is one of the interns. There are 7 interns, and they're all fantastic. So that's some of the core members. You do this one, Mindy.
Here in the center, in the blue jeans, is Catherine Hayhoe, who many of you may know. She's, of course, one of my favorite climate scientists. And, of course, even though she was waiting for someone else who was coming to interview her, she still took time to say hello to her CCL friends and to let us do a brief interview as well as the photo.
Oh, Marcin, if you need to.
Oh, and there's Martin over on the side, on the far right side, and you'll meet him in person in a moment.
I want to talk about this one because Mindy has really come into her own as a video expert. She's got my walking stick and her iPhone, the white iPhone. They're filming a news conference with James Hansen. Peter Joseph is right next to her with the CCL hat, and then behind them is Bruce. So they're CCL people kind of tiptoeing and getting coverage of Jim Hansen, who's done yeoman's work for CCL, and he continues to talk about carbon fee and dividend as an absolutely necessary first step. And I think we have one more picture.
And what I thought was funny in this picture was I was in the mob of all the real press, pretending to be our Citizens Voice press. Yeah, and this is some more of our team. Actually, most of them have been in the other pictures, but there's our nice video rig with the microphone and the camera on the walking stick.
And you might laugh after this, but they've changed the climate sign. The climate sign is now the C, because the one finger up in the air was too much like the terrorist sign. So that's been officially changed now. So everybody gets to learn a new sign, and we'll destroy all of the other pictures. So it's we spend a lot of time walking, riding the train, riding the bus, and then walking from place to place, going to different events. And then Mindy and I have probably done 15 interviews. I hope you've seen some of them on citizenvoice.tv or on the website or on our Facebook page, which now has 850 likes. So thank you for sharing that, and please encourage people to visit, to like it, and then get to the website for deeper analysis. So, Marcin, do you want to unmute yourself and share a little bit about your reflections about being here as this is your first COP, right?
Yep. So this is the first time.
And talk about
anything
else you want to share.
Yeah. So I actually, even though I'm Irish, I have quite a lot of French family. So I'm actually staying with my grandmother at the moment. And so that's quite handy. So I do know Paris quite well, but it's kind of a totally different experience to be in Paris for such a big event and then hanging out with a kind of international team. A lot of Americans, but there's also Jerome, the German guy, the marine biologist, and then George, also a Serbian CCLer. and then Claire is also half French. So it's not just Americans. Just regarding the launch of the Citizens Climate Engagement Network, and that happened on Tuesday, 2nd, and the main idea behind CCEN is to bring, similarly to how CCL have done it at a national level in America, is how to bring it to an international level and kind of the UN level, and bring citizens' voices to international climate negotiations. So I've understood that there will also be, so it won't only be contributions, but it will also, there's going to be an app or some kind of mechanism where people will have the texts from the COP negotiations, and citizens will be able to sign in and amend that text as to how they propose it should be written and should be agreed. So it will be like a direct way of saying, of actually having an influence on negotiations, and that will be passed on where possible to national representatives and UN officials. Mindy did a brilliant job on the live stream to get Google Hangouts to work and get kind of different angles. There was a few disasters along the way, but we managed, like the camera died, but she somehow managed to kind of keep everything right, all the issues, all the difficulties. And I think you're able to see the live stream, the video online somewhere?
Yep,
is that right, Mindy?
Yeah, it's posted on the Citizens Voice YouTube channel if you want to watch it now afterwards.
So it was about 2 hours long, and so Joe Robertson was doing most of the kind of, I suppose, facilitating, and there were different organizations are involved, so it's not just CCL creating this group as kind of another part of CCL, it's the Healthy Climate Project are involved, and also People and Planet Project, or the People and Planet Partnership. So a number of different groups are involved, and I think the idea is to get more and more groups involved as well. During the actual launch, there was so Joe kind of introduced the idea behind it, and then surprisingly the interns were asked to stand up and introduce themselves and say their own role, which we hadn't been prepared for. And then there were a number of different contributions during the event, and then at the end, I think the thing that stood out for a lot of people was the spoken word poets. So we had two sisters from Samoa who were talking, and then another girl from, I think it was the Philippines.
Yeah.
But they were very, very powerful.
The Philippines. Spoken
word poets. And it really kind of connected what the aims of what CCEN want to do with the actual impacts that climate change is having at the moment, and why it's so important that people actually have a voice at an international level instead of just staying at a very kind of technocratic language. And yeah, I suppose the thing for me behind CCEN is that it gets to expand this kind of idea of citizens getting directly involved in high-level negotiations across the globe, and I suppose that's kind of the next step for CCEN, and that's kind of the brief synopsis of it. I'll hand back to Mindy and Paul.
Took me a minute to find the unmute.
Great, thanks, Machine. And it's been really wonderful having so much young volunteers and interns, and they're taking major leadership roles, and many comments have been made. I wrote a blog post about how comforting it is to see these young people stepping up and taking the lead, and the older generation being there to work hand in hand with them. So I'm sure we're both benefiting, but there was a sense of you know, we're passing this on or working together in good hands and good partnership. So thank you for representing the interns and the young generation, because it's a joy.
And Martine was one of the cameras that helped film the live stream. So during the CCEN event, which was our first practice, so that I learned a little bit more by the time we're doing this one tonight.
So you want to show the video?
Yeah.
Mindy and I are really not very connected with a lot of the negotiations. The amount that I know is that today was the deadline for completing the text. So the text that will be reviewed by the world leaders and their team will happen during the next week. Many changes will be made. There are many things that are still quite contentious. But what we've heard is that the agreement is going to be okay. You know, it won't be what we need, and it won't be as strong as we want it to be. But we will have something to work with. Mindy's about to play one of the Cup of Coffee events that we've been doing in the morning. Was with some negotiators that are from Yale University, and they are not officially representing the United States, but they're right in the midst of looking at every letter, every bracket, every comma. The UN process is so detailed and cumbersome, and it's one of the reasons I think that people feel very disconnected with the process. But here's a little good news from our Cup of Coffee.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen Cup of Coffee, I highly recommend that you watch it. It's usually the first one. If you go to citizensvoice.tv, it's the first one in the playlist for every day. And this one was particularly good. Oops. Give me a second to figure out how to get back there. There we go. Now I can play it. Yeah, I'm curious how this compares in terms of how the progress is comparing to other COPs. Is it good news? Are we doing well or not doing as well?
Right. That's a great question.
I think it's doing fabulous. I mean, we've never seen this level of global ambition before in COPs for quite a while. And I think that we've, as our organization has said in our press release yesterday, the text has expanded, and it's going to get consolidated, and that's to be expected. This happens a lot in COPs.
Right.
So I think there's kind of this sentiment on the ground that things are going backwards, but I think that there's actually a lot of momentum in this being a very transparent and party-driven process, with, especially with the bridging text, with parties getting their voices included in the co-chairs and, really respecting that, and especially with, just the transparency of it and all the countries participating, that there's a lot of momentum, and, personally I feel a lot of hope, but that's just my opinion.
So, could you hear that part?
Yep.
Cool, because I wasn't sure if the sound would actually come through. So that was the part, and if you watch the whole thing, they'll talk a little bit more about some of the different levels of things that they have to deal with in compromising for even this week, how much they have to get done. But for me, that really was important of, okay, for all we've heard about how things have been such a struggle at other COP conferences, how are we doing here? And that at least their feeling is that, yes, it's complicated, and yes, you have a lot of countries that you're trying to get to agree on specific language, but that it feels like there's more participation than ever, and more focused attention, and that maybe they're getting more done in week one than maybe they have on other occasions.
So most of you know that President Obama was here for the first 2 days. You might have seen his speech. They were given 3 minutes. He took 11. So he definitely had a lot to say. It was a good speech, and he did admit that the United States is a major cause of the problems from the past with our emissions. The next day he had a meeting with the OCED, and we have some text of his speech. And although he didn't endorse a revenue-neutral carbon tax, he did talk in depth about the economic sense that it makes to let the marketplace choose the winners or losers, you know, for the moving the economy ahead. So everything he said was in line with what it is that we're trying to do. So I'm looking forward to seeing how we can trim tab that and continue to build the conversation. The reason Joe Robertson is not on the call with us right now, he's at the Blue Zone, and I believe he's in a meeting with Al Franken and 7 other U.S. senators that are getting briefed on the process. I'm sure you can follow Mr. Senator Franken's just with the local press, but there are a number of U.S. senators, and I'm hoping that some of them, Mindy and I, are going to the World Climate Summit one-day meeting with business leaders tomorrow, and hoping that some of our representatives are still there. So, Marcin, do you have anything else to add about the negotiations that you are aware of, or things that might be impactful to share with our CCL groups?
Not a huge amount. Like, the information coming out of the negotiation zone is quite slow and quite secretive. I know that because Joe was saying, or Sarah Beth, that even though they have accreditation to be in the Blue Zone, there's still 80% of the rooms, the negotiation rooms, they're closed. So obviously it's hard to get information of what's going on. A lot of things are quite secretive.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't actually have any extra information, unfortunately.
So more of that will be coming clear in the week. Why don't we open it up for questions, and we'll just go down the line. We'll go in the order in which you joined us, and welcome Alexandria. I don't see you now, but I'm hoping you're still there.
May have dropped off again.
So let's start with Red Wing. Is there a question? So Red Wing, unmute yourself, and if you have a question, give it to Peter or come up to the microphone.
We're on, and we just wish you all the luck. We have nothing as far as a question to put forward to you, but what's your sense of the citizen community that's joined the COP group, the other communities, the international citizens groups?
Right. For me, can you mute? Thank you. When I come to one of these things, I feel like I'm back in the Peace Corps. You know, I'm talking to people from Nigeria, and then a woman from Nepal, and then someone from Guatemala. Mindy speaks in Spanish. You know, I might find someone from Indonesia. And now that we have the microphone and the badges that say Citizen Voice, you know, we can actually be kind of quasi-professional. I call myself a cub reporter, but it gives us a certain permission to really ask, you know, questions. What are you doing here? What's your experience of the COP? Are you making a difference? And what message do you have for people back home? And then, of course, sending them the link, because they're going to be the best advocates for getting people to watch these videos. So hard to measure the impact, but on me, the impact is huge, and I'm really loving doing this. And Mindy has been such a champion with the IT skills and the web skills, and you know, without her, the whole group would be running behind because it takes time to get these things up. So go ahead, Mindy.
I want to go back to the very first day we were here on Sunday before the conference officially opened. And that was the day that was supposed to be the big march here in Paris. And because it is officially still a state of emergency, the police and the government would not allow a public march. But so the NGOs here got very creative, and having a single person in line on the sidewalk, as long as it wasn't spilling over into the street or taking over the sidewalk, well, that was permitted. So they created a human chain, just one person at a time, lined up down the sidewalk for blocks and blocks and blocks. They had, I don't know, a couple thousand people that were lined up holding hands, holding signs that they had made originally for the march or that they just made that day. And it was just a very festive atmosphere, and we went down the line and got interviews with a few people. It didn't last that long because that was part of what they'd agreed with the authorities for security reasons, so that it wouldn't be a very long time. The only thing that seemed to have made the news that day in the U.S. was a small group that actually started throwing glass at the police in one of the plazas, in the Plaza de République, and the police did respond with tear gas. But the important thing is that that was a very small incident. It was people that were intentionally trying to cause trouble, and they actually were even picking up things from some of the memorials from the shootings. They were picking up the candles and throwing those at the police. And there were other citizens that were there that then started surrounding the memorial, trying to keep them from picking up those candles and throwing them. So what the news covered was really disappointing with what was actually happening, because there were thousands of people that were out peacefully following the rules of the state of emergency, but still being able to make their voices heard and share their feelings and share their expressions of that this is the most important way we can demonstrate for peace too.
So we're counting on you to tell the good news about citizen engagement and people making a difference, and then writing your own LTEs and op-ed pieces. That's what you guys do. It's important that people know that this is tough work, and it's going to take a lot of work in the back. So Pathway to Paris is going to become the Citizen Climate Engagement Network, and on we go from here. So it's really up to us to keep things moving and focus on the positive coalition building that we see. And Paris is an amazing place. I mean, they've bounced back so fast, and it's such a vital, alive, wonderful city. They smoke a lot, I'll say that. The safest place is inside the cafes. If you're out on the street, they're all out there smoking and making food, but it seems like a gigantic marketplace, and very, very old and beautiful. Enjoyed being here a lot. How about Northfield? Question in Northfield?
Yeah,
Hey.
I have a question, Paul and Mindy. In your conversations with the global folks who are there, are you broaching the subject of fee and dividend? And when you're talking about fee and dividend with the people you're talking with, what is the reception? Does it seem as though something that has interest to them? Are they tell me a little bit about how are you able to get that in the conversation? Because I think it is certainly different than cap and trade and just putting a price on carbon. It's the dividend piece that often doesn't get addressed.
I would say that the first part of the conversation usually starts out with pricing carbon, because officially when the negotiations began, the president of the COP said that pricing carbon would not be in the negotiations. And you're having all these side events, and even on Monday, the global carbon pricing leadership coalition was formed, which included Canada and Mexico, our neighbors both to the north and south, as well as Germany, France, Chile, Ethiopia. They were the ones, those 6 were at the press conference, and then a number of other nations have also signed on. So that's the first step, is that a lot of people are pushing carbon pricing just to begin with. And then, of course, it's clear that each country has to find its own way to do that if the first level is to agree on carbon pricing. We had a conversation with someone from France who is well acquainted with Citizens Climate Lobby, and he didn't think that fee and dividend was necessarily a model that he understood it, and understood why it might be important in the U.S., but he didn't see that it necessarily would have the same impact in France. And I must say I don't know enough about exactly how the government and the economy works in each of these other countries to know if it would work. Jim Hansen has definitely been very vocal that fee and dividend works much better than that like cap and trade. the analysis that he has done and that he's seen from economists is, and that has been showing, is that if companies really move towards efficiency, that the trading of those dividends, the price doesn't necessarily go higher. So it doesn't necessarily make it that expensive to pollute. And that's one of the reasons that he's a strong advocate for fee and dividend, because that fee is then set and continually rising, and it isn't based on whether it creates a new market for trading those carbon credits. Do you have anything you want to add?
Well, not technical, but carbon pricing is everywhere. Mm-hmm. Everyone is talking about putting a price on carbon and minimizing the damages, and then moving quickly now. There's a lot of talk about adaptation because people see now that, you know, we've already hit the storm and that we're going to have to continue to move quickly to protect especially the most vulnerable people. And the normal argument about who's going to pay for the adaptation and the helping the poor countries, that continues to be quite contentious. The United States, I heard something about their offer was $30 million, which is, you know, like throwing a penny into the ocean when countries like Sweden and Norway are and France are contributing like $1 billion to the Green Climate Fund. So I just don't know what to say about that, except it was extremely disappointing, and I don't know if that will be upgraded, you know, but that would certainly be a call to your representatives to push for the United States, you know, to meet their obligation as the world's. And James Hansen points out time and time again, we're not dealing with the biggest emitters now, we're dealing with everything that we've done in the past. And that when you look at the cumulative carbon that's in the atmosphere, China is barely on the scale, India doesn't even register, and the United States, Europe, and Australia are the ones that have done most of the damage. So again, it's kind of, how do you deal with that long-term you know, responsibility and debt? It's a tricky question, but right now I really think that, you know, the big business, we're going to be with billionaires tomorrow. And I heard what Mark Zuckerman did today with his fortune. And I think we really need to start moving the billions and billions of dollars when people realize what's at stake, that we're going to start seeing some amazing philanthropy coming out of businesses and wealthy people. At least that's my hope. So great question, but carbon pricing is being talked about a lot. We have work to do on education on fee and dividend. St. Louis Park, do we have a question there? Hi, Rick.
Hey, Paul. I like the fee and dividend thing, because money is a big part of any solution. And has there been talk about, you know, instead of just saying no to fossil fuel, have people been talking about the benefits of algae oil fuel?
You know, not that I know of. I haven't done a lot of shopping around, and we will have more time this week to find out, but I know that that's something that you are really pushing. I'm curious. It seems like every possible solution is somewhere, you know, in the mix of things, but that's not one that I have noticed.
There's a lot in the low carbon solutions exhibition that we didn't get to, that are a lot of businesses working there on new technologies. And the press conference that we covered with Jim Hansen, he's a very pro-nuclear advocate, more than anything because he really believes that it is the lowest carbon way, the fastest way to meet our energy needs without greenhouse gas emissions, that can ramp up fastest. And whether that's true or not, you know, I have no idea. But his point in that is that we just need to price carbon and then let the market figure it out, and whichever is the lowest carbon energy sources is going to win out, and the ones that can be developed the fastest will win out. And that's why we just need to put a price on carbon, and then we don't have to fight about which are the best technologies. It'll be, let the best technology win, or technologies, because the truth is it'll probably take an all-of-the-above approach to really get us to where we need to go.
For sure.
Yeah.
Let's go to Two Harbor. Are you in Two Harbors at home? Hi, Mark.
Hi.
Hi, now we're here. I have a couple questions. The first, do you know how they are overcoming the language barriers in these meetings when there's dozens of languages trying to communicate?
Headphones and interpreters. And it causes a great deal of separation, which is one of the biggest problems in trying to deal with an international group, is, having good I'm sure they have very good interpreters. I went to one of the side events where it was mostly French, and so they had headphones where I could get, but you lose a lot in the interpretation. So you can only imagine. I mean, it's like a small United Nations, and in the green zone and the blue zone, it's very different. I've talked to people that have passes in the blue zone where the official negotiations are going on, and they come over to the green zone and they say, it's so much fun to be here because everyone is active and they're all doing stuff and they're all working on their computers, and just the tension and the pressure for the official negotiators is very intense. And I think that's a big part too of the struggle and the lack of collaboration that goes on. The UN model, I wish Joe was here because Joe really has a good sense of that, and what we're trying to do with CCL and the CCEN, the new kid on the block that we're creating here, is so much based in CCL philosophy of appreciation and open-hearted and kind, and we can do it, and being persistent. So we need to continue to bring that in. So it's hard. It's hard. And you had one other question.
Do you guys get any rest?
Mindy got to sleep at 3 one night, 2 another night, and last night she fell asleep on my lap, and I just worked until 1, and I think she got like almost 9 hours of sleep.
Yeah, because I didn't wake. We were going to try and do a couple things today, and ended up slept in first and then stayed here working on uploading videos until we took about 2 hours that we walked around the streets of Paris and found some food, both to bring back to our apartment and to eat for dinner. So it's hard when there's so much to do that you want to get it done, but yet knowing that if I don't get my sleep, I'm just going to crash at some point. So today was a good day to let that happen. But they were actively negotiating all day today too, because they had a deadline by the end of tonight, because they take tomorrow. They do take tomorrow off. They take Sunday off.
And there's lots and lots of big conferences like this thing, the World Summit tomorrow, is where the Climate Reality Project, the I Am Pro Snow, all the buttons that we have, and the Cool Planet skiers, we got free tickets to go to this thing. It's a very, it's an 1,100 euro event. So we're going to hobnob, and I'm putting on my sport coat and hope to meet Richard Branson and Arnold Schwarzenegger and all kinds of big stars. Maybe I'll get a TV role if I wear my red beret.
We should probably do a quick review of who's who of famous French people before we go.
Yeah. So we'll see. That'll be mostly business oriented, but you never know. I mean, I think things are happening that we can't see, and I just got to trust that people are seeing that it's time to get off the stick and move quickly. And I think business really is a key. So
yeah.
I'm looking forward to tomorrow to see what people think about CCL. So I'll be there with my backpack and my information and try to be businesslike. But you know me, we'll see how it goes.
I'll have my microphone so we can do some interviews with people.
Did Alexandria get back on the call?
No, they're not here.
Jean Johnson was there. Okay, so we'll open it up to any of the groups. If you have any calls or any questions, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, just from so many of us over here, we just really think of you a lot, and I don't know if you ever can feel it, but just we really support you there, and we just are so glad you're there. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we do. We feel your support, and when we see the Facebook numbers going up and the comments that you make, and when you're posting things that you want, you know, Rick, if you want to hear something about algae, post it.
Yeah, put it on the put it on the Citizens Voice Facebook page.
Yeah, the Citizen Voice Facebook page is really rocking now, and the only way it's going to go viral is like people like Craig Neal. Is Craig there in St. Louis Park?
He said he was there.
Yeah.
No?
Hi, Nancy. You got to unmute her.
Hold on, let me turn up your volume. Go ahead, Nancy.
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering if you've heard from the negotiations if there's any progress on those, you know, U.S., Europe, and Australia giving some reparations in order for the less industrialized countries to move to sustainable practices immediately.
Right. Yeah. The Green Climate Fund. The only thing I heard, which I mentioned, is the U.S. Gave a very, very tiny contribution, and I don't even know if that was their contribution to the Green Climate Fund. I have a feeling that Congress didn't approve anything because of Congress being the way they are right now. So, and the other countries, I will find out. So thank you for asking that. And I'd love to get more questions like that where we can go and do some research for you and find out. But we need to make sure that the Green Climate Fund is fully funded, because when Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State back in Copenhagen, you know, she crafted that deal to provide $100 billion a year for the least developed and most vulnerable countries. So that's...
We didn't pay any of that?
That's in a well, it wasn't going to start right away either.
Oh.
All these things take time. I mean, now they're talking about 2022 and 2020, and I'm like, what about 2016? You know, we need to get moving on this stuff. So again, your letters and your comments are going to help to drive that. Don't wait for others to take it on.
Martin, have you heard anything else that you might like to add here?
About the funding?
I was just saying, the announcement from Germany and France that they're going to go for 1.5 degrees rather than 2 degrees is actually quite significant, because as Joe said, it puts a huge amount of pressure on America and even China, and obviously the other European countries to also go down to aim for 1.5 degrees rather than 2, because the sense from what I've gotten from a lot of talks is that 2 degrees is actually not that safe, even though it's been seen for so long as this kind of maximum level of permitted temperature rise.
You can imagine if we're at 0.9 degrees now, even 1.5 is not going to be nice. So, you know, the science is not good. The science that Lachlan, one of our people on the inside, talked to some scientists, and
with Context News, you'll see some of their reports on our YouTube channel too.
Yeah. So the science is a tough thing. You don't argue with science. You either accept it or you don't. But I think most of us realize that this is something, you know, that we've created. Now we have to live with it. But mitigation is really important, and stimulating renewable energy is one thing. But this other, you know, shifting to help the oceans out now with land sequestration. And what Ronnie was talking about at the Red Wing Conference, four of their people from the Regeneration International came to our launch on Tuesday, and many of us will be going Monday night to their big event. They have 50 countries signed on to their document talking about sequestration of carbon, drawing down carbon, and using land, agriculture, grazing, animals as one of the most important things that can be done to mitigate the carbon problem. So it's great having their partnership here, and I'm sure we'll be doing a lot with them when we come home.
Did we have another question in Northfield? I saw people waving. Or just new people joining.
Hi, Northfield. You're all lined up, ready to sing a hymn?
Well, no.
We got to cheer for regenerative agriculture, though.
Right.
We're cheering that.
Could you hear that? We got a cheer for regenerative.
Cheer.
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 Yeah.
Ronnie Cummins' message.
Yeah. Well. We get an echo when you leave your mic on Red Wing.
Yeah.
I think it's Red Wing.
That's right, we got it.
Okay, well, it's not late here, and it's the middle of the day there. We're happy to keep chatting.
But I'm thinking you've already had your CCL call. It's probably a good time we could at least stop the live broadcast. If anyone wants to stay on, we can talk longer, but we could officially end.
This is recorded, so you could send people to it. Please help Craig, Maria, and Debbie Nelson. Maria's in Santa Fe with the getting people to like the Facebook page. So the more that you can do on your end to just keep promoting and watching closely. I'm sure that BBC is a good place to get news. But if you have questions or specific things that you want us to look into, just send us an email. Keep us in your thoughts. We're safe, we're happy, and looking forward to another week of little sleep and lots of good work with the video champ right here. Mindy, the IT expert. I'm making all of her food now, and I'm waiting on her hand and foot.
Yeah, Paul does all the cooking of breakfast and the making of coffee in the morning and the washing of dishes because I'm still uploading video.
So we hope it's making a difference for you because we are here for you. So, signing off. We love you.
Bye, everybody. We'll open up all the channels.
Everybody, we can hear you. Bye-bye.
Bye.